the good, the bad, and ugly of self-esteem. So in the last lesson, we briefly look at the history of the subject and the value of it in life. And this lesson we will try to understand the different kinds of self-esteem and identify the pros and cons of all generally. Self-esteem is said to be high or low. However, even in that, they are types and tendencies. Few tests have been devised to assess where we stand on that scale and intensify the patterns that lead to our self-esteem out of the ideal, real, and dread itself. We will concentrate mostly on the actual person or the real self that we are. In this chapter, since that is the one we can work on, high self-esteem is the real self can be healthy in that we realize our potential and we indemnify our faults and fix them. It only means that I am good at something, and like everyone I am imperfect, but I like me in spite of it, and I will endeavor to be better. I will endeavor to be the ideal self. The unhealthy, high self-esteem means that I am good in something, I am perfect, and I am, and I shall not hear otherwise. Everyone will accept me and like me because I am perfect as I am. This leans toward clinical narcissism and is highly fragile people with a healthy high self-esteem will listen to their critics just as calmly as the world to their fans, but of people with unhealthy higher self-esteem will feel great only if they receive compliments and become defensive. When they receive criticism, they will act in a hostile manner. And some become aggressive as well. A typical feature of the healthy has self-esteem is that they require very little outside approval, that they believe in their convictions, and hence the outside world does very little to wherever their confidence. They are willing to accept their faults and generally place their trust in facts and not opinions. They have a strong moral code and have been recorded to say that they will refuse success if it is at the expense of others. Material belong and mean little to them, and they can be easily manipulated. They are also more likely to admit their faults and fade into enthusiasm for many activities. The most notable of their traits is that they insist on living in the present intensively. They only learn from their past and refuse to dwell on it and plan for the future, but don't count on it now. Now is their motto. The people with an unhealthy house self-esteem, on the other hand, have conditions for the high. It may appear just as confident as the previous group, but their insecurities are still present and have only internalized them. It is known as defensive self-esteem because consciously they believe that they are good, but subconsciously they have self-doubts, and when these are pointed out to them, they become defensive. They are vulnerable. A vulnerability becomes aberrant in their reaction, and there's a need for praise to bring them back up. These individuals will even boast of their own achievement in order to convince themselves of their culpability if others don't acknowledge them. But real rewards are used for temporary satisfaction of the self, and there's a constant need for approval. But clinical nurses may be associated with this type. It entails excessive blow for oneself and a high, almost fantastic regard for one's ability. I am the greatest player in the world without a doubt. I know everything there is to know. I can do much better than anyone else. And typical statement or typical statements a narcissist may make. They are extremely prone to outbursts and hostility. People with low self-esteem tend to indulge in every self-criticism due to their perfectionism. They will spend a lot of energy on making something perfect and feel disappointed if they fail. They don't view failure as a circumstances but as a condition. They also have generally negative view of the world and excessive guilt for their past mistake. These people may feel good for a compliment or a success but will go back to the earlier state just as soon as the next failure happens, and it does. Because they also display in this sense of sadness and the action There's this faction and fear of mistakes, or a repetitive feature in their personality. Statements like "I cannot do that," or "I have been slow," are often heard from them. Self-esteem is classified into further types: contingent and non-contingent. Contingent, meaning conditional, contingent. Self-esteem is obtained from all outside sources. For example, people's opinion, success, or failure. Competence in relationships, etc., meaning it is evaluated by only these forces. I am good only if Odos thinks so. I am good only if I pass on that, and bad fact if I fail. Whereas non-contingent self-esteem has its sources and a firm belief that I am good and hence acceptable. My faults are just my faults, and I am acceptable in spite of them. I am acceptable not because I have no guilt, but because, like everyone, I do too. So, we see how a mindset can be grossly misunderstood. The mindset what else was also made by the government in instilling self-esteem in children without fully understanding the difference between healthy and unhealthy positive reinforcement. You can do everything you want to is a good thing to tell a child, but living the rest for them to figure out will cause them to be dissatisfied with their inability to achieve that dream. The mindset is courage. 1. Should believe in one's capability, but how the devil is in that detail.